Hi, this is James from Tabletop Gaming Guild, and today we're going to look at a special prototype of a game called Journeys into the Beyond. Now, this game here is made by Handsome Monkey Games. It plays about 2 to 4 players, and just to get it off the bat, this is a prototype. So the art's not finalized, the components aren't finalized, the rules aren't finalized, nothing's finalized about this game. So keep that in mind as we go through and we take a look at this game. Now, in this game, you're going to actually be played by a person who has died. You have been trapped by the Lich King, and your soul has, and you're going to try to gain essence through the game to try to take out the Guardian to impress the Lich to let you go into the afterlife. So let's see how this plays. Let's go ahead down to the table here. I'll give you a general overview of what the game is, keeping in mind it's a prototype, and then we'll come back and I'll give you my final thoughts. So, just to start off, to remind you that this is a prototype game, so all the stuff, the components, the art, the rules are subject to change. So with that in mind, we're just going to go over a general overview of the game itself and give you a general idea of what's all involved. Now, in Journey to Beyond, players are going to take the role of champions. These champions are actually dead, and their souls have been trapped in a cursed purgatory forest known as Ragnarworld. This forest is controlled by an ancient entity known as the Lich. To escape, you need to actually defeat a Guardian, which you'll pick at the beginning of the game, at the northern point of the forest to earn the Lich's respect. And your goal is to get to the true beyond, so basically to ascend to whatever you're going to end up in. So at the beginning of the game, you're going to pick a Guardian to face. Alright, so I'm going to go through this Guardian deck here, and there's a couple, they're all cool Guardians. You're going to go through, and you're going to see which one you actually want to face. And we're going to go ahead and pick on Jaegermore. He's going to be the Guardian for the game. You're going to put the rest of the cards back in the box after you picked your Guardian. Then you're going to pick your hero. There's 4 different heroes that you can pick from in this prototype, and they all have their own unique decks. And there's going to be several things that you're going to look up for the basic setup of each of these heroes in the game. So you're going to pick your hero, then you're going to look in the rulebook for the setup of that hero. And like this red one here, he's going to be the Wanderer. Put him in the Mausoleum, and you would put the rest of your characters in the Mausoleum here. So I picked the Wanderer, and the Wanderer has Awaken. I can draw 2 cards. I could do 2 Wander cards and place the cards from your hand on the bottom of its deck. So we'll get into that. So Wanderer cards. Once you control 3 Mastery ability cards, choose a new Wanderer deck to control and flip this card. So he has a flip side here, so he becomes more powerful. Wanderer, draw a Wanderer card. And these are his Awaken events down on the bottom that can occur. So they become even easier on this side, but like you have to kill 2 things. You have to take out 2 other players, take out a monster. You can go do an event, and basically whatever you do on here, so if you go to the event or you go to this space here and you do these things, you'll gain an Awaken. Now this one happens to be the Wanderer. You can choose a Wanderer deck to control, and there's several in here. You also get your starting gear, so you have a bag which you put your goods in, and there's your axe. And you get a little player guide here that's helpful. And I can pick like Disciple, Berserker, and Kinsey, I think that's called. I don't know how to pronounce it. We're going to pick this guy because I like things with swords. So that's the deck. The other 2 we're going to set aside. And the game comes with a quest guide, and the quest guide, or champion guide, sorry, and the champion guide is going to show you how to set up each one. So you have the criminal. The criminal is separated into the 4 professional ability cards from your deck. So If you're going to be the criminal, you're going to get 4 professional ability cards, and you're going to choose 2 of them to control and then shuffle the other 2 into the criminal deck. And then you're going to also learn a loot ability, which is pretty good, and you gain 2 awaken, so you fire your ability off twice. There's also the feral pagan. You get a cloak, you get osmosis and wild anatomy abilities, and you get to spell mercy and cruelty. So with that one, you get to do, which is going to be this green guy here, you get to do a lot of spells and stuff. And then you have the lore keeper, which is your like typical wizard thing. He gets epoch spells and a lore keeper deck, and then you get to awaken 4 times. So you get to do his ability 4 times. You get to choose an epoch spell to learn, and then shuffle the remainder into the lore keeper deck, and you can pull into these as you go throughout the game. So basically, what the short of this is you get a customizable character for all 4 characters that can grow through the game. Once you've picked your guardian and choose your champion, you're going to decide who starts first, and then you're going to play clockwise. Now, these symbols on the bottom here that I didn't eloquently go over are going to be PvP creatures. These are going to be events, and this is the dungeon. So you go into the dungeon, you're going to face epic perils, but you also could get epic rewards. And you can actually die in this game, but if you die in this game, you just get reset and you lose some loot. But we'll go over that in a second. So a couple things to keep in mind when you have these cards on here, they have different triggers on them. Some, like, you have interrupts, like this guy here, that you can play to do at specific times. So this one here, you can stun your opponent. If your opponent is already stunned, deal 5 damage instead. So you can, in a combat, you can play this card any time and do its effect. You have maneuver cards. Maneuver cards are one-time cards that stay hidden in the player's hand until you're ready to use them. Once they resolve, you set them aside. They're just a one-time combat resolution card. They get shuffled into the actual deck. Spells have a special thing too, because some of your characters, like this lore wizard, have a lot of spells. And spells are going to be one-time effects, and you can only play, well, except for some of them do have duration. You can stick around for a while. But the thing is, you can only play 1 spell per round. So keep that in mind. You can't just keep slinging spells and stuff in there. So there are going to be a couple different rules for the card decks and the different types of cards, but they're pretty straightforward, and most of them revolve around combat. So you also have a couple other things that can occur in the game. So I remember I said about events. So if you land on an event space, so you get 5 points of movement, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I go here and end my turn on there, I get to fire off an event. Now you don't have to move all the spaces on your turn. You can pick and choose. You can land on the different event spaces, like you can land on the dungeon and resolve some dungeon tiles. Dungeon tiles are neat because how they're going to work is when you're going to go in order. So when you first do you have to do the first part, so you get into a trapdoor, and then you're not going to do the second part. If you survive the first part, you're going to go into the second part by flipping the next card. So this is going to be the second part. If you survive the second part, then you're going to go into the third part, and if you survive the third part, you get a big reward. If you die in there, you lose some loot and go back to your first space. You also get doom counters. And that's one thing in the game that I want to explain real quick. With the doom counters, with the doom counters, like this guy right here, when you get these doom counters, if you get 5 of these doom counters, you immediately lose the game and you're out. So there's player elimination, but it's really, really hard to get 5 doom counters, because you can go to the Mausoleum and get rid of some of these doom counters. So you do have options to go out and get rid of some of them. You could also fight the monster in the middle of the lake as an event, and you can also fight other players as an event. And all these things will fire off the player's awaken abilities. Oh, in the middle place, he's called Cag Nox, and this is his little deck right here that you're going to challenge him with. Now, whenever you challenge the boss here in the middle, or you challenge the guardian that you have on there, you have to deal all your damage and everything to him to finish him off on your turn. If you fail and die trying to kill the guardian, they reset back to full health, and if any had any status effects, they're gone. So they won't matter. Now, that's nice in a couple different ways, because that doesn't get like the munchkin effect where you allow an opponent to go up against the guardian, die, and then you go in and sneak in and get the last couple hits. So I like that a lot. You need to build up through the game. You're going to get memories throughout the game for different things, and these are going to be your currency that you can use to buy potions and items. Now, when you have items, you're going to have one slot for each type in your that you can carry. You'll also have your bag that you can carry as much as you want. This is actually what normally gets looted when you die. The cost of the cards are going to be in the upper right hand corner where you can purchase them. And items are permanent, but potions, like these guys here that you can purchase through, you have 5 different types here. Actually, I don't even know if that one's either pack, but so you have 5 different types in here, and you can pay the value on here, and you get this. And these like this health potion is going to be a one-time potion. Once you use it, it's gone, and you can purchase as many of these as you want, even though there's one of each of the cards. So the other event space that actually isn't listed is the Mausoleum. When you go to the Mausoleum, you can get some cool stuff. Now, the Mausoleum is one of those places that you can actually, when you stop your movement, it's normally when you're getting an event, but in the Mausoleum you can start with it, but you can't do the Mausoleum more than once in a turn. So if you want to start, if you're here and you want to do it, fire it off, which doesn't count as your event. You get your thing and then move on. You can't do it twice. Like I said, the Mausoleum allows you to reveal the top 4 cards of that Mausoleum deck there. But the most important thing about the Mausoleum is it doesn't count as a encounter, and you can only have one encounter per turn, so you can't have multiple encounters. So you pick your encounter and you do it in your turn. Now, you're asking, well, can I buy these stuff anytime? No, you actually have to go to the slots to do the potion or loot deck. If you go to these slots right here, you get to do the potion deck. If you go to a place with these little anvils on them, you get to do the loot deck, which is going to be this guy right here. You get to look at the top 4 cards, and you can purchase some of them. And that's how that guy works. That's what's available at the shop at the time. So, going through, and you're going to keep working on these. And I actually misspoke. You actually don't, for the Doom counter things, I forgot. You don't lose them at the Mausoleum. You actually lose them at the Spirit token. When you go to the Spirit Stone, you can set your HP back to its maximum. You can remove any poison counters. You can purchase Spirit Shards for 2 essence each, which these are these guys like here. These are your essences this is the currency in the game. You can only purchase up to, you can purchase any number of spirits you want, but you can only ever hold 6. That's the maximum number you can have of those guys. You could also pay 4 essence to remove doom counters that you control. So, it's these spirit stones that you'll actually remove the doom counters from, not the Mausoleum. You could also enter your dungeon. We already went through the dungeon, what that does. And again, this is all in trying to gear up and try to get the ability to make it to the Guardian space and take out this Guardian. The first player to take out the Guardian will automatically win the game. Another thing I want to mention is at the end of your turn, the last thing you're going to do is there's a cleanup phase, and basically with that phase, you're going to make sure that your bag doesn't have more than 4 cards in it, and if it does, you have to discard down. You're going to do Avarice, and what that is going to roll the dice, and you're going to place, which these numbers on here, you're going to place out essence on that area. So essence will spawn throughout the game, so it's the other way that you're going to collect it in there. If it spawns where you are, you actually don't pick it up. You have to actually actively do that on your turn. And one of the last things I'm going to mention is how combat works in this game. So combat is broken up into 3 phases during the game. You get the approach, clash, and disengage. So when you do the approach portion, the entities activate abilities. So the 2 players will activate abilities. You can play your maneuvers and spells are cast. Players may only activate effects if they currently have priority, so the attacking player has priority. Once the attacking player has completed their attacks, then priority passes to the defender and they have priority. You can do your triggered events and interrupts. You don't have to have priority to do interrupts or triggers. You could do the class phase, and that's when you take the attack value and it's basically totaled up simultaneously, and each of you assigns damage. Now the only simultaneously subtracted by your armor. So whatever armor you have is going to reduce the damage on here. The only exception is there's an ability called Advantage in the game, and Advantage allows you to do your damage first. Sometimes that matters. Well, it does if you knock out the opponent before they deal damage to you. The next thing is Disengage. Abilities and effects can trigger at that point, and previous effects during the round end. Once this phase concludes, you return back to the approach, and you're going to keep going through this cycle until either someone's knocked out, basically. So I obviously didn't go over the whole rules. I just gave you a general idea how the game plays. You're going to be going through, and you're going to be doing all these different things in here. You're going to be trying to get your spirit tokens. I like these little markers on here, but technically you hold these markers so you see what the colors, and then you have these little pawns that go out there, but I like the little markers better, so I put them on. So you're going to keep doing that until you can take out the Guardian and win. Now, a couple side notes that are neat about this game, and I really like how this portion is done in the game, is that when you combat multiple creatures, so if you're going, which can happen through going through dungeons or other things, when you're combating multiple creatures, you're going to take the total of their damage, which makes sense because they're all attacking you at the same time, and use that as what the attack power is against you. So attacking multiple creatures in this game can be very, very dangerous, but also can be very rewarding because you're going to get if you defeat them, you're going to get all that cool stuff. So I really liked how they did that and how it just adds up. I also like how they make sure that when you add up your powers for attacks and stuff, and then multipliers and multiplicative abilities on there, you add up everything first, then multiply it, so it has a higher amount of damage, which is also fun. And the last thing, you're asking about PvP, if you're thinking about that. The way PvP works is if you enter another player's space, you guys decide, first the aggressive player, the person that goes in there, decides whether they're going to attack. If the person that was existing in the space also decides they don't want to attack, both decide they don't want to attack, then you're good. But the first person that decides they want to attack becomes the aggressor, so it gets the advantage. So if I'm moving in this space and I say, nah, I don't want to attack you, but the defender does, they actually become the aggressor and get the advantage of doing it first. So that's also a cool little, like, not quite prisoner's dilemma, but pretty close system with that, which I like a lot. And lastly, when you die, you're going to discard a card from your bag, unless you're killed by another player, then you don't lose anything if you're in PvP. You're going to set your HP back to maximum, and you're going to turn back to the space. So, in a nutshell, that's how you're going to be playing the game. I didn't go over a lot, I just went over the minimal for the game, so hopefully it gives you an idea of how it plays. Let's go ahead back up the table here and I'll give you my final thoughts. So, Journeys into Beyond. I like this game a lot. It's a lot of fun. I like the race aspect where you're trying to get your gear, trying to get yourself leveled up, and ready to take out that guardian that you all picked. And while you're doing that, your other players are watching you saying, well, maybe he's getting too powerful. So they'll go through and they'll do the PvP on you and knock you down a notch so that they can build up before you do to be able to take out that guardian and win the game. I like that a lot. This game has a lot of promise. Notice that it's a prototype, so none of the components are finalized, but this game could be just amazing for what they can do with this world and this art and stuff. So I'm super excited with the Kickstarter to see where they're going to go with it. And the basis and the core of the game is really good. So it can only, and as it is, it's already playable. So that's great. I just think this theme is neat. It's neat. I haven't played another board game quite like it yet. I think the design is good. It makes me feel, I think the tension is good towards the end of the game where the other players are getting closer and closer to being able to defeat that lich. Just overall, a really good experience. I highly recommend checking out their Kickstarter if you're looking for like an adventure style game. This would probably be up your alley. Check out the videos on there. Check out how the game is progressing from what you saw in here. And I think that this game is probably one that I might back. So that's my thoughts on Journey into the Beyond. Thank you for watching.